Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Horacio Rilo with us today. He's the founder of Boop. Boop is simplifying event management with SMS, building connections with profiles, surveys, and registration. He's in Austin, Texas, Argentinian origins. Cool guy with very entrepreneurial background. It's not his first startup. I see Soft Cell here, Sasha, and previously a business analyst, which is an interesting background. This podcast is brought to you by podpar.com. That is my podcasting company. If you want to start a podcast, generate leads, have thoughtful conversations, and just grow exponentially, I still think that podcast is the best time ROI ever as a founder. You can go to my website. I have a free ebook and a masterclass showing you how to start an automated and AI podcast that will make you rich basically and will make you way smarter. So podbuyer.com for that. Horacio, welcome to the pods.
Thank you
Tell
for
me a
having
bit
me.
more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
I'm the founder of Boop.me. We are a networking platform that automatically will text your digital profile to people that you meet. We also do surveys and have an vertical event networking platform. It was all born from running into constant internet issues at conferences and events when I was doing business development and marketing. And so we developed a solution that would work without the need for strong internet. And then typically at conferences and events, you have a basic call to action. And so through SMS, you can simply text your call to action to people.
Okay, and tell me about your background. Like, were you always that entrepreneurial? Where did you start it?
Yeah, so previously I would always be building stuff kind of on the side at other companies. And my previous role, I was working doing investor relations for a remote accelerator. And a lot of the times there was just not the software that we needed, and so I would typically start building the software inside of the companies and helping automate processes. And as a kid, I would typically have a side business, so I built computers, I would fix phones and stuff like that.
Interesting. And how did you first get to networking? Because I first got into it with my first business and was never successful at it. And up to this day, I think that online podcasts are like so much better than traveling to some place and shaking hands. What is your take? What was your first experience as a networker, quote unquote? And what's your take on networking and its profitability nowadays?
Yeah, so my first sort of exposure into it, like I said, was going to conferences and events for that remote accelerator. And we just didn't really see an initial ROI from the conference. And that was due to, I think, a lot of different reasons. But one of the main reasons was we didn't have the tools um, to equip us with that. We were constantly running into internet issues when trying to connect with people at the conference and event as attendees. And so that's kind of how the tool was actually born, was kind of the result of not really seeing results from the networking just because of a lot of the software issues.
And does Boop make it profitable? Yeah, tell me how I could get an ROI using Boop if I would network physically nowadays.
Yeah, so if you go to a conference or event and you meet anyone who might be an ideal customer who would like to come onto the podcast, you simply have them scan your QR code and we'll text whatever your call to action is for the event. So, for example, if you are selling podcast services, you can say, book some time with me on this calendar to schedule a podcast consultation or whatever the service might be.
Interesting. Okay, and Luma, I've used it extensively, or some of my partners did for their physical events in the crypto industry, which is very much trust based and meeting people physically, right? How does Boop compare to that?
Yeah, so we're focusing a little bit more on larger scale events. We've built out the conditional logic sections. So typically you'll have multiple stakeholders coming to a conference or event. And so through our system, you're able to build out profiles. So let's say that you have investors, sponsors, startups, general attendees. Through the registration flows, you're able to build out those profiles, capture maybe a pre-seed startup, seed startup, and from that conditional logic. And then on the investor side, you can have pre-seed, seed, Series A, and then through the actual event itself, you can match the startups as well.
Right. And okay, let's say I'm networking with someone that the before Boop version was I would ask for their business card or name, and I could just fetch them up on LinkedIn, right? Send them a connection request. That is sort of slow. Aren't there like other technologies that do that? Like I don't know, iPhone's AirDrop. Like can AirDrop be used instead of that, or is it still clunky?
It's still clunky, and the thing about Boob is it stays in the message thread, so typically you meet a bunch of people. However, let's say that you meet 10 people. Your call to action will still be inside the message thread after the event, so that person can go and easily find it if they're still interested in engaging with you after the event.
Right. And companies pay $100 for that. Is it for their full team or is it just for one person?
So right now we're charging $100 per month, and that is for unlimited seats, unlimited events, and some SMS marketing credits. So the platform acts as a marketing SMS opt-in, and that also includes surveys. So one piece of this I didn't that we haven't touched on yet is anyone, if you're exhibiting at a conference or event that comes by your conference booth, they can scan a QR code and we'll text survey questions to them, capturing more robust data sets for your marketing at conferences and events for exhibiting.
Okay, so they come at my booth and then it automatically sends them why would they fill a survey exactly? Because they're interested in my stuff? Like why
Yeah,
would they
so
do that?
so so if the attendee seems to be interested in coming by and looks interested in engaging with your business, you're able to text a few targeted SMS survey questions based on the profile type.
And after COVID, I'm guessing that conferences and physical networking is even stronger than prior to COVID. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering, like, if I should include that in my stack. Like just traveling somewhere and meeting people. Is there like, yeah, is there like a modern ROI to that? Because, like I said, I've done it for like a year, starting my career, and I've got like $0 out of it for like one full year. Isn't it like more efficient? Maybe in some industries, like way more efficient to meet like older people physically, right?
Yeah. And being able to using the tools to be able to identify who is worth engaging with as well through the SMS surveys.
Okay, interesting. What's your like? How's the business doing right now? You started that a couple of years ago,
So
2023, I believe, like almost 2 years ago. So, any funding in mind, and what's your growth plan for this year?
yeah, so the year of 2023 was really building out and testing out the product itself through um, the actual like validation of the MVP. The last year has been building out a lot of the tech, but we recently just launched about 2 weeks ago with the actual software itself.
Right. And prior to that, I see a new chip, which failed spectacularly. What happened there?
Yeah, so one of the biggest problem that we really ran into there was just a lot of miscommunication, and just there wasn't transparency when it came from the leadership, so we didn't have insights into what was really happening during the company.
And what did you learn from that? It must have been an interesting ride.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just transparent business practices and being very clear with what value you're delivering, and understanding really what's going on with the business.
But there was some kind of need for this, right? Like I think founders want to mentor other founders. If I would want to start a better new chip, do you think I could be successful? And what is the business model ultimately? How do I get paid?
Yeah, so I don't think that the business model of charging up front makes sense as a accelerator. What would make sense, I think, is for the time and mentorship and those resources.
Got it. You also had like two other startups before that. So Sasha and Soft Sal. Like, how did these go? What did you learn from these?
So soft sale was when I was working at NewChip, we worked with a lot of startups that were in India and internationally, and a lot of them would say we would like to go to the market in the United States. And so we actually initially built a marketplace for international softwares to go to market in the US. we were able to get about 15 softwares on there, but ultimately scrapped the idea for this current one. And then Sacho was a office marketplace that I had built with one of my friends on the side. One of the issues we saw with that early on was that it was hard to get the office spaces to sign up.
Tell me about the current growth of the company. Do you feel you have product market fit yet? And what would be that magic moment when you get PMF?
Yeah, I think we're on the early signs of it as we're starting to get some paying customers. I believe that once we'll see true PMF, I think as people continue to come back and use it for all of their conferences and events, if they see it as something that's delivering ROI and really helping them either A, build awareness or B, close deals, and we're seeing a mixture of those. I think that's the real end goal.
And who's your ICP and how do you get to them?
So heads of marketing and event organizers are who we've worked with and who we currently work with. Also salespeople. So since it is a vertical tool, we have some business development people using it, some marketing, some sales, just anyone who wants to engage attendees at conferences and events with SMS.
Right. And let's say I want to create,
Yes, right.
yes.
Our ICP is heads of marketing planning their exhibits or their marketing for conferences and events that want to deploy SMS marketing to attendees.
Right. And you get to them through LinkedIn, cold email, ads. What do you invest in nowadays?
So a lot of it is manual list building. Just going through and looking and reaching out to the people who are attending the conference.
Okay, interesting. And only that channel, one focus, and that's it?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. How many users do you have approx?
So it depends how you define users, since it is a vertical suite. All in all, roughly 10,000 total users.
Okay. And is there like a free plan? I see like the $100 one and the custom plan.
No, as of right now, we're only working with people who are open to paying 100 a month.
Okay. Any funding plans for this year?
It's on the roadmap further down the year.
Okay. It's like fully bootstrap. It's quite impressive. Like, let's assume that 20% of these are paid. Yeah, that would be like a pretty high MRR. Uh, Bootstrap or funding, what's your philosophy on that?
I believe that we're at a point right now where we can achieve PMF without funding. So I think if we do fundraise, it would be ultimately to just accelerate growth. But typically, fundraising doesn't help achieve PMF. If that makes sense. It just buys time.
And what are conferences that you love and that are great for tech founders, the ones that you get your customer from?
So the enterprise or the pilots that we've done have been from TechCrunch and SaaStr. So those two conferences.
And let's say that I organize like a post-conference party to attract leads on my end. How should I use Boop to, or how should I design like the best event that would create value, obviously, for people that attend? And yes, that would get me a list of potential clients. Like, what would be the organization going into this whole thing?
So you start out by designing an event registration page that would capture the profile types of people attending. After that, once you have sort of the whole event set up of where it would be, the design of it, you would then go ahead and send the invites out to people attending the conference. Maybe
How would
design.
I get their emails?
If you buy a ticket to the conference, you can go in usually and see who's attending the event and send them.
Really? I didn't know that.
It depends on the conference, but typically the conferences, once you sign in, there'll be like a pre-networking session. And so it's really good to do outreach to conference attendees beforehand. If they give you something, they don't always give you access, but if they do, it's typically a good practice to go in, send LinkedIn connection requests, send emails, and set up meetings beforehand, send them an invite to a side event and kind of start that way. And then once you have that during the event, just being able to put together a good event by actually putting the profiles of people that are going to be at the event and being able to match them. So through our system, you're able to, like I said, build out those profiles through a conditional logic registration system. and then you're able to match people if they opt into it, obviously, at the actual side events as well.
Okay. And let's say that I don't have access to their emails. Any other places on the web where I can know that they're potentially attending? Are they creating like LinkedIn group, or could I scrape some of their LinkedIn posts knowing that they'll be there? Like, what would be
Yeah,
another way?
sometimes people will post on LinkedIn. A lot of people will add to their banners or just information saying, I'm going to be at this conference, and just compiling a list of everyone that is in the ICP or potential partners or anything, and just reaching out beforehand saying, hey, I'm also attending the conference, would love to meet in person, and just really setting that up. It really is a good icebreaker.
And then how can I make that events different in itself? Like me, when I do my physical mastermind with CEOs and founders, we go to spas, for example, and go in the jacuzzi and the cold plunge and try to do stuff that is different, right? And takes them in different states and outside their comfort zone. So what would be a better concept than simply like networking and wine and cheese, for example?
So our tool is more geared for larger events where there's going to be different profile types, and so if you have like between 100 to 500 people, being able to then take those large groups of people and segment it down to then match at the actual event.
Okay, match at the actual event. But if I'm creating like a post event, I think that's a bit more interesting because I have like more uh, control over that, right? And the event is over and they're just chilling at their hotels doing nothing. Do you think don't you think that's like a bit better and less crowded and more control?
Say that again.
Yeah, the post event. So I'm renting an Airbnb, for example, and just receiving a bunch of people. That's what we're doing with some of my crypto clients. We're using Luma, right? And after the event, we're inviting them to a mansion, and we're just networking with these people, quote unquote, there. Um, don't you think that this concept is better than networking like at the event itself because there's more control and get more control?
So I think the idea of the tool as well can be used during the event. You have on the call to action. You could invite them to the event through the QR code. Then it would text them saying, "Hey, this is the event." Um, if that makes sense, right? So if you meet someone at the conference, you invite them to that side event that you've planned. You put that call to action on the QR code, text that to them, and then you can invite them to the event through the actual networking of the event.
Right. And then what would be a better concept than just wine and cheese?
So the actual events themselves, I don't have in-depth of experience beyond just the networking and matching piece.
Okay. Because yeah, it seems like so corporate and boring to just like meet people and walk in their directions rather than, I don't know, pre-targeting them through a podcast, let's say, and so forth. But who knows? I haven't done these in a while. I have a deep aversion to doing it. Now, tell me about your day to day. Like, what does it look like a founder day in Horacio's life?
Yeah, so right now we're kind of in the rapid iteration process of looking for PMF. And so just getting people to test it, try it out at a conference, get feedback. So that's really just what we've been heads down focusing on.
At what time do you wake up? Do you have any habits that is fueling that founder brain of yours?
Yeah, typically I wake up at 6 a.m. and then go to the gym here in Austin. And then I'll just go directly and start working right after that.
Right. What do you read? What do you feed your brain with?
I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of AI podcasts, just to try and keep up on the most up-to-date technology. I listen to some other, like the All In podcast, a few of the other general tech ones, and then a lot of leadership literature. So currently reading a book called Super Communicators.
Cool. Then what's next for you, like personally and business wise this year? What are your top goals,
So,
except the ones you mentioned for Boop?
so top goals. Well, I guess separately, it really is just about trying to achieve PMF for Boop. That's kind of our sole focus right now.
All right, love that. Where can people find out more about you?
Our website is www.boop.me.
And where does the Boop name come from?
The noise that the NFC tag makes when it's like the clicking noise of the NFC to the iPhone.
Love that. So that was Horacio and Charles for another Founder Wisdom podcast. You can find us on YouTube and on Founder